Okay guys, a while ago I've started, making some videos concerning the differences between Russian mentality and the Western mentality and why Western mentality wouldn't always work in Russia. And so, and I've been asked to continue these videos. And today I probably uh, make a piece that some people would not agree with, but I'm not preaching here. I'm just stating the truth, the way I see it. And one of the biggest differences between Russia and the Western mentality, as I've understood it, having worked for like 20 years with people from different Western countries as interpreter. And from what we see on media, of course, because I don't have opportunity to travel a lot, and I've traveled a bit, but not too much. I haven't been to US or England, but I have been to a few places in Europe and some places in other countries as well. But so, from what I understand right now, the biggest difference which would strike the Western visitor or Western person in Russia is the the disrespect and disregard for of Russians to the whole notion of political correctness. Now, political correctness is almost despised, I would say, or inexistent in the settings of real Russian life. I mean, Russians have not appreciated at all the Western, tendencies, some of the Western tendencies, and I will be very specific now. So the whole idea of homosexuality has been so foreign and so, disgusting even, and repulsive to average Russian or to Russians, and most post-Soviet Russian-speaking population has been raised and has been, has been this way, that we don't really appreciate any idea of homosexual, movement or LGBT or, homosexual same-sex marriages. It just doesn't exist in the Russian mind. I mean, and that's as perceived as something very, very contrary to nature, as something totally, repulsive, totally not welcome in any way. So when people see some footage of gay pride on TV, the only emotion it evokes in most people is just anger and apprehension, because we're still a Christian nation, unlike I believe most of the world, where the gay propaganda exists and gay marriages are allowed, because it's to Russian, the very idea of homosexuality is just so anti-God and so anti-marriage. So there cannot be any gay marriage, because it's an oxymoron. Because we believe God has been very specific in the Bible concerning the gay and the homosexual, that it is just a abomination. It's something contrary to God's will, and God specifically rebukes that. Well, I feel like I almost started preaching, and it's because I don't know if I told you before, but I've been going to evangelical church planted by American missionaries for a while, since middle of 90s till quite recently, till maybe beginning of 2000, year 2000. I was quite an active member of evangelical church, and even then, I mean, to most, not to most, to like 100% of even American people, American preachers, American missionaries who came here, there was no question of condoning homosexuality as a God's will. It was very clear that that is something very, very wrong. But at that time, in the middle of the 90s, even American people wouldn't even believe that now in 2012, 17, they would have gay marriages, registered and blessed by some churches in the U.S. Which brings me back to the notion that Russia may be one of the few really Christian countries left on the face of the planet, because you really cannot call you a Christian nation and have gay marriages, and have a huge gay movement, persecuting Christians for just refusing to do business or to service gay events. Like we heard, one woman got persecuted for not willing to, provide some business to a gay marriage because she doesn't believe in that. She's very contrary. She just refused to service them, and she got in trouble legally. Which means, I'm sorry guys, those of you who watch me from the United States, but America is no longer a Christian nation. I mean, you can have 80% of people call themselves Christians and go to church, but it doesn't stop American government, pass whatever laws they can, and those laws are totally anti-Christian. And America is a good part. I mean, if you talk about Europe, you have gay priests, you have gay marriages in churches, you have, people are banned from wearing a cross in England. You cannot wear a crucifix in England. So to me, that's totally anti-Christian. And to have a gay, multi-thousand gay crowd in the middle of the city, doing their thing in front of everybody, in front of the children, and allowing them to adopt children to be molested and to be raped, later, and to be brought up gay as well, for me is totally, anti-Christian, totally anti-God, and totally horrible thing. And Russians probably are one of the few peoples who are totally not okay with that. And if you're gay and you're watching this, I'm sorry, but you'll get in trouble in Russia. If you come to Russia and you want to do your thing in the street, to hold hand, well, you can hold hand probably, but if you show some sexual interest, or you do your sexual things to some somebody of the same sex, you'll get in trouble. I mean, not only from the police, but from the regular folks. You will be told not to do so. And in some areas of the country, it can get pretty rough. You could be roughed up for that. And to me, that's a good thing. That's a sign of a healthy nation. And that's one thing I'm proud still of my nation. We may not be the smartest, maybe not be, well, although Russians are pretty smart. I mean, we may not be most successful people in terms of business, because, and we'll speak about this later, because Russia has a long-standing history of Christianity, of Orthodox Christianity, which, holds spirituality over the worldly possessions or riches, and attainment of spiritual, salvation has always been held higher than attainment of worldly success or riches. And most respected, people in Russia has always been monks and clergymen over the tycoons and business people. Although the most successful Russian business people historically have been those persecuted Christians who had to hide in the forests, in the woods, from the church reform and then keep their faith in secret to the outward world, but be very disciplined and be very smart and shrewd to create the business empires and living very modestly at the same time, not wearing any gold or silver or, huge, they lived quite modestly. I mean, they would have a huge house because they had huge families normally. And they were dressed okay, they were, having all the luxuries, but they were not, there was not, conspicuous consumption, so to speak. They wouldn't brag about their riches. They would use their money for the business, of course, and for the needs of the business, but they would donate huge amounts of money to the church and to the needs of the poor. They would build the hospitals, the museums, the schools to poor people, and all kinds of do all kinds of charity. And that's one aspect of Russian life that you have to remember, that Russia has not been about the riches. It's been about spirituality in different form, and but it deserves the whole other conversation. For now, I just want to just point out that Russians have little or no regard to political correctness. If we speak about something, we will call it a real name. Like if somebody is a black, and and I'm treading into another dangerous topic here. If somebody is a black and he is misbehaving, he is like showing very bad behavior, being arrogant, being disrespectful, being impudent, or being just aggressive for no good reason, we'll call him a nigger. It's all right. Nigger, negro, negr is a Russian word which is a notion of a negroid race. And in Russia, we've been taught in school that people can be of different races. One which is Caucasian is a race, Negro is a race, and Asian or different. There are different races. Or yellow is also a race. Okay, you cannot do away with races by creating some politically correct, neutral terminology like Afro-American. This is a bullshit. There has never been any Afro-American. There's been Negroes who have been transported all the way from Africa to the United States and used as slave for a couple of hundred, maybe years, until they were quote-unquote liberated by the Civil War, after the Civil War in the United States. And okay, they have gained some rights, and then they have gained more rights after the 60s. And now they have full rights, or even better rights than most of the, white, Caucasian, Anglo-Saxon people. There is an inverse discrimination, as you know. But to Russians, I want to point this out very strongly. To Russians, it doesn't matter which race or which skin color you are, until you are a good person, until you are behaving, until you are being cool and being a good guy. It doesn't matter if you are right, if you are straight, if you are a good person, if you contribute in a meaningful way to society, if you are being if you are being just a good citizen or being a good fellow. It doesn't matter which color of skin you are, because the great poet of Russia, Alexander Pushkin, his ancestors came all the way from Ethiopia, and they were Negroes too. But it doesn't stop him from being the greatest Russian poet ever. You ask any Russian, they will tell you that Alexander Pushkin is the greatest Russian poet, although his ancestors came from Africa, basically. But it has never been an issue, because he's a genius, and we recognize him, and we treat him as probably 200% Russian. He's more Russian to me than some of the Russians who are speaking Russian but not behaving Russian. So if you're a cool guy, it doesn't matter if you're Ethiopian, Afro, Asian, Mexican, whatever. We appreciate good people. But if you are an asshole, you will be called what you are. If you're a nigger, then you're a nigger. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're black. If you're a punk, you're a punk. If you're white, you'll be treated accordingly. So, so political correctness is bullshit to most of Russians. So don't even think it's respected here. Well, maybe in some of the big cities like Moscow, and from people who have been delusioned or exposed to some of the propaganda, is still it means something, but to like most hardcore Russians, it doesn't mean much. Sorry, but that's something you should be aware about. But apart from that, Russians are very good people, open, hospitable, fun, and good to deal with, and appreciate good humor, appreciate a drink once in a while, but not necessarily. Some people, a lot of people I know nowadays, they don't drink at all. They do sports. They like to spend time with their children, just like everybody else. But I think in Russia we have a lot more freedom than in some of the so-called democratic countries, because we can speak freely like I do now. I mean, you can't hear most of the things I spoke about in this short video from the pulpit in American churches nowadays. I mean, if some preacher calls somebody a nigger from the pulpit, I mean, he'll be sued immediately. Or if he says that gay marriage is a sin, that would be something he had to be cautious about. Here we can say things like that, and much worse things. I don't want to embarrass you with some of the language. Probably I will later on, but right now I just don't feel like that. I just want to make a small introduction. And if you're interested in me continuing this video, please write in the comments something you want to learn about Russia and the Russian life. Okay, so at that I'm finishing, and hello again from Russian forest, from a Russian man who knows how to speak English, and who can tell you Russian point of view on the world affairs, and share my thoughts on the things of the world as I see it. Okay, stay good, stay healthy, and until next time, bye-bye.